Alright, everyone, welcome back. So we continue our 2023-2024 season previews today with the Colorado Avalanche. So obviously, earlier today we talked about the Avalanche's prospects. Now it's into the more fun stuff. So let's take a look at the Avalanche last season, what happened during this offseason, and what we can maybe expect out of them in 23-24. But regardless, there really shouldn't be much changes standings-wise. They should still be a really good team. But regardless, in 22-23, they went 51-24-7 for 109 points. They were 7th in the NHL, and they lost in round 1 to the Seattle Kraken. An unexpected loss in 7 games. And there was a lot of factors that played into that. You were missing Nichushkin, you were missing Landeskog, obviously, but you were missing him for the entire season. You had Makar suspended for a game. So there was a lot of factors that played into that. And do I think that that's going to affect them even more in being a Stanley Cup team? No, they're still a Cup contending team. They're still one of the favorites for the 2024 Stanley Cup, even though they've already won one in 22. It doesn't matter. They're still a really solid roster. They have a good team regardless, and I expect them to be good for the next years to come. So what they did during the offseason, they did a good amount. I'm not going to lie. Your departures list goes as follows. You have JT Comfer, Alex Newhook, Eric Johnson, Evan Rodriguez, and even though he's no longer even in the NHL, I guess Alex Galchenyuk was someone that I just randomly remembered. But yeah, he's obviously gone now, no longer, not just on the Avalanche, but in the NHL in general. That's a whole situation for another time. But regardless, losing those guys, Comfort hurts. Good third liner, probably on that roster. It's gonna stink missing him. Newhook as well, a solid young player. But they did get some solid draft picks back in return for that could help them out in the future. Obviously Eric Johnson, a guy who, look, he had his injury problems. He may not have been the best blue liner in the world, but he still was a memorable player in that Avalanche's run, and it's unfortunate that he's gone, but they need to move on. And Evan Rodriguez as well, he faced some injuries too in Colorado, if I'm correct. So, honestly, not a huge loss there either. The arrivals, yes, some of them are controversial, but I think they're interesting. I like some of the guys they got. I'm not going to lie to you. I like the guys they acquired. You got Ryan Johansson, Ross Colton, Jonathan Drouin, Miles Wood, Frederick Olofsson, and Chris Wagner. So let's go through all of them here. Johansson, great second-line center on this Avalanche team for sure. I like him a lot there. I think it was a good move acquiring him. Ross Colton, good third liner, had a down year with Tampa, but I think would fit very well in that third-line center slot for sure. Drouin's an interesting one with me because I honestly think that being in a new change of scenery after all those horrible years in Montreal, I honestly think that maybe Drouin, playing with the right players, could have a decent shot. And with Landeskog being hurt on that left wing side, and obviously on that left wing side, your depth chart goes as follows. You have Lehkonen, Drouin, Wood, and then you got Andrew Cogliano. Honestly, there is a slight possibility that Drouin could play some first-line minutes if he plays well enough in Colorado. I think a change of scenery could help him out. I'm not saying he'll be an amazing player, but still, just look for the improvement at least. Look for some improvement. And if he's being bloated and being carried by those top guys in McKinnon and Rantanen or Johansson and Nichushkin, depending on how they go, then so be it. He's still at least being a solid player nonetheless. But Drouin's kind of interesting with me there. Same with Miles Wood. The term is weird. They signed him for a 6-year contract. I thought that was really strange for a guy who missed all of 21-22 and didn't look too good in 22-23. So, honestly, I think it's a little bit interesting, but I don't hate the move. I liked Miles Wood. Good, bottom 6 player at that point. Olofsson, his brother's Victor Olofsson, but Frederick Olofsson definitely could slot in well. They're on the 4th line or just be a depth player, and then same with Wagner there too. More or less just acquiring some depth there for Colorado. So, not terrible. I don't hate that too much. Your lineup goes as follows, and this is if everyone is fully healthy. This is via the Hockey News. Please don't come at me. So you got Landeskog. I got a star next to him. You got McKinnon, Rantanen as your first line. Then you got Arturi Lehkonen, Ryan Johansson, and Valeri Nichushkin as your second line. So overall, a really good top 6. However, if you take Landeskog out of there, which obviously is going to be out for the entire season, so I don't even know why I even mentioned him. But regardless, your top 6 then is Lehkonen, McKinnon, Rantanen, and then Drouin, Johansson, Nichushkin. That's if Miles Wood, like doesn't perform. But like obviously these aren't the official lines, but losing Landeskog, your captain, hurts. And I think that's part of why they lost in the first round last year to Seattle. I feel like that played a big role in why they lost. But overall, I still think they're a really solid top six. That's still great. And Druin's going to get a good chance to redeem himself regardless of whether he plays good or not. He's going to get a good chance to redeem himself for sure. Your bottom six goes as follows. You have Druin, Colton, O'Connor. Then you got Wood, Mayers, and Olofsson. Then you got Andrew Cogliano, Jean-Luc Foudy, who we talked about earlier today. And then you got Chris Wagner there as well. So, yeah, not a bad. Honestly, I like that a lot. I don't hate that bottom six. I like Colton. I think he's a good third line guy. O'Connor, I think I like. He's starting to show some signs of improvement, show some progress. Wood, we'll see how he does in that fourth line, but I think that's the best spot to put him at, honestly. And Cogliano could very well take him over that too. So I'm not saying that he won't. It's a possibility. Mayers, I like there too. Played a few games up with Colorado this past year. I like him a lot there as well. And then we'll see how Olofsson does. I would imagine guys like Foudy are going to get some time because, as I mentioned in my prospect pool review, if you haven't watched that already, I would make sure to go watch that if you're an Avalanche fan. But Foudy obviously played some games with Colorado last season, so there is the hope that he could come over or he could play, maybe gets a fourth line spot there on the fourth line center spot over Mayers. But of course, we'll find out come training camp. That's one of the major questions we have. Your defense goes as follows then. You have Devon Toews and Cale Makar as your first pairing. Then you have Bowen Byram and Josh Manson as your second pairing. Then you have Jack Johnson and Samuel Girard as your third pairing. And then Brad Hunt and Curtis McDermott as your extra defenders. I like that defense a lot. I like it a lot there for Colorado. One of the best defenses in the league. Your top four is insane. And your third pairing is not even that bad either, even though it is Jack Johnson. But still, regardless, one of the better blue lines in the NHL. I don't feel like I need to explain it. There are so many good guys on that blue line for sure. Your goaltending, and I'll be honest, I doubted this last year, but it kind of redeemed themselves. And could it be because, McKinnon's so great and all the guys are so great on Colorado that the goaltending was weak? Maybe. But Georgiev and Francouz impressed me last year. And then you have Onanen as your backup goalie, as your third string goalie, sorry. As I mentioned, he will play some games up for sure. He's just not there yet as a backup goaltender. So yeah, I like the tandem a lot. I think it's a solid. I think Georgiev played well last year. And definitely, even though there was some concern in the first round, I really do think that those guys can solidify that goaltending role. But they played really well during last season, I thought. So definitely still a good team. My biggest X factor is one specific player. It's Jonathan Drouin. Honestly, I'm really going to go there because you look at that left wing side, as I mentioned earlier. With Landeskog out, you have Lehkonen, Drouin, Wood, and Cogliano. That is basically your left wing side. So Jonathan Drouin's a big factor for me because he really could, and as I said, he really has a big chance of redeeming himself for Colorado for sure this coming year. And whether he plays good or not, he definitely will get the opportunity to. I feel like he will on a left wing side that is relatively weak. Well, it's not like weak, but it's still relatively questionable how it's going to go with Landeskog being out. So Drouin will definitely get a chance, and if he does well, then great. But if he doesn't do well, then it's a one-year deal. I think it's league minimum anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can just get him out of there. Next up then, my biggest question, and this is a question that I've seen a lot, is Colorado still a cup team? Yes. I don't think there's any other distribution for that. I think they are a cup team. I think they can still win a Stanley Cup. It's going to be harder. Yes. I think I said the same thing with Tampa. Like, it's going to be harder for them to go and win another one. But, yes, they can. You have the experience, too. You have the star power. I think if you make the right moves at the deadline, maybe if that left wing spot doesn't work out, you address that at the deadline, then, hey, it could definitely work out there for sure. But, obviously, we're going to see. Then you got your point projections here, which are via the Hockey News' fantasy guide as follows. You got Nathan McKinnon in first with 116, Rantanen in second with 102, Makar in third with 85, a massive drop to Toews at 54, and then the Nichushkin at 45. So accurate rankings there. Your sleeper or your bust is Ryan Johansson. The intense pressure of being a number one center with an oversized cap hit will no longer weigh on Ryan Johansson. On an AF squad with elite goal scorers, Johansson will be able to make the use of his high hockey IQ and adapt playmaking skills. And yes, I think that plays a big factor as well. I didn't go too in depth with Johansson, but that trade could look as a really good deal because you're acquiring a great second line center who had a lot of pressure on him being the number one guy, but now that he's behind McKinnon, he's not going to have as much pressure, but there's still going to be some eyes looking. But I definitely think that, being on a team like Colorado is definitely going to help out his scoring, especially, there's no doubt about that. So, honestly, I think any of these guys could really do well just because they're on Colorado, and Colorado's such a high-scoring team. But, yeah, honestly, without a doubt, a playoff team, I would be shocked if they missed. It's just a question of what happens come playoff time. Do they lose in the first round again, or do they go for another run? I think they really could go for another run. But regardless, let me know your thoughts on the thing of watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. Hit that subscribe button down below. I would really appreciate it. Tomorrow is the Washington Capitals, so that'll be an interesting season preview. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.